This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back, everybody. We are a day away from Thanksgiving, but it doesn't matter when you're viewing this or even when you're listening to it. We should be practicing gratitude, i.e. Thanksgiving, all the time. Now, how does that trickle down in your family? And that's just one principle of being spiritual. What about raising your kids with some of those values? Spiritual children. We're going to talk about that today. Disclaimer, I just feel I have to say this always. When we use the word spiritual, we're not talking about religion. If that serves you, great. But that's not what it's all about. And that's where we're going to go today. She's the owner of Infinite Healing and Wellness and the author of Mastering Self. Colleen Brindley is back on the program. How are you doing today?
Hi, great, Steve. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I am grateful to be back with you and talking about this today. And I have ideas, but I'm not really sure. Where do we begin?
Well, we all have heard the power of gratitude, but it's amazing to see it in action. And I think when we look at young children, they naturally are born in this love energy with these high frequencies of creativity, inspiration, movement. And it's just a natural act for them to appreciate and love, every minute. They're not projecting too far into the future, thinking too much about the past. They really have mastered this being in the moment, and sharing that love energy. And as a former teacher, after having 3 children, I went into mental health and got a counseling degree because I really did not know how to raise children who were very unique. Oftentimes feeling misunderstood. How do you encourage self-esteem, self-worth? How do you incorporate love and gratitude in a home? And I had so many questions. And so I kind of went back. The way I deal with things is to learn, to watch, to observe, to share. And so that mental health degree was so enlightening. And, you work a lot on communication and things like that. And so now I work with families as a coach, a spiritual life coach. And so the question is, how do you raise spiritual children? What does that look like? How do you define that? And that's really what I do here at our center here in Middletown, New Jersey, is have these conversations. Because we live on planet stress with lots of emotions. Money is a factor, and a lot of strong, diverse personalities, soul plans, individuals come in to kind of break some bloodline cycles, being addiction, eating disorders, all these emotions, rejection, abandonment. So raising spiritual children. And so that's the conversation we start to have around this time of year, because again, with gratitude, we can appreciate what we have because we know there's always could be something worse or something better. And so if we stop, be still, quiet things down, get in the moment, truly appreciate this moment right now. We have food, we have shelter, we have power. This time in New Jersey, we're grateful for the heat turning on, But one of the first assignments I often give families is to make a list of 100 things they're grateful for.
100?
That's a big number when you start to really, 100 to 200 items. And when you make that list, you dig deep, we get beyond the food, but you start to say, well, I have my hands, I have my legs, I can smell, I can cook, I can touch, I can taste. So again, a great assignment that we encourage, listeners, families to start gratitude jars, to start making those lists, because that shifts the energy and the focus from problems. This is how life should be. But more importantly, children learn by example. They are watching adults in their lives, parents, family members. And although they are born knowing all people are equal, that again, there's no
Mm.
superiors or inferiors, they're really watching. And so, really, then it becomes, if we raise spiritual children by example, we have to then say, well, what is that example, right? So, how do parents demonstrate this spirituality,
You
even though
can,
we live on planet stress?
Colleen, you open my eyes to something here in that when children are younger, I'm thinking, 3, 4, 5, 6, all in that area, that
Yeah,
you have a fresh slate. They live in the moment mostly. They
right,
express their creativity. Anything is
right.
possible. And maybe they don't always say thank you. And that's where we give them that reminder. But short of that, it's all good. What else are they doing? To your point, observing. They're looking. They're thirsty for information. Now you're giving them that information in terms of, call it, spirituality. I'm seeing it that way. Would you say I'm somewhat on point with that?
Oh, absolutely. We're absolutely, they come in pure. When you think children
Sure.
are absolutely pure, divine, born in love, I mean, quite miraculous. And again, the children born, now adults, after 1975 actually came in at a very high frequency. And they're actually have a lot of allergies. And so we here at the center say they're allergic to planet Earth, meaning the density of division, of impatience, intolerance, separation, the way the earth has been treated. And so these indigos, we call them, they have these high frequencies. And so they just crave love. They crave connection. They crave quiet. They do extremely well using essential oils and exercise. And so, again, they often had this label of being misunderstood. They didn't fit in that box of work the same job for 30 years. So things are adapting and changing in our world. And we saw it in schools, having worked in
Wow.
schools, my secular career. There's a lot of labels and things we could talk about, but it's unnecessary. We just say these are children born in love and came to change our world. And they are watching and creating more compassion. But how do we get any human to really realize their worth, their value? And so sometimes what has happened is people are comparing themselves to others.
Hmm.
And we keep saying, you matter, you have talents and gifts and worthiness because you came in equipped to do whatever your soul came to do: art, music, creativity, science. And so, because we need each puzzle can be not complete without all the unique pieces. And so we really need to get to the root of this worthiness and get people to understand that if they quiet their mind, they'll understand their value.
Why, Colleen, do you think it was from 1975 and on
Yeah.
that there was that shift? So, if I heard you right, children from 75 on were born with more positive energy, if you will. Why wasn't it before that? And we still talking, let's say if you were born in the 90s, you're in your 30s, whatever, or close to, would you still have that same more positive energy?
Yes. And so again, we like to use the word, high vibration, because again, it's not good or bad. But at a lower frequency, you were okay in a sense with fitting in the box. Kind
Where
of
was
did
the
well,
shift?
went to
Where
school.
was the shift though? Why the 75, cut off there? Is there a reason?
Well, and I think some came before, some after, but I think it was pivotal to create a new consciousness. And so again, the children had to come in to kind of to unsettle the norms. And so I have three indigo children. who certainly didn't fit in the box, a stomach ache, a skin rash, high anxiety, all these kind of things that I thought, I don't know. My grandmother had 10 children. I don't ever remember hearing of all this difficulties and challenges. But they were very sensitive, much more sensitive beings, aware of feelings. And so again,
Wow.
they have greater compassion. And so again, what somebody born before the 1970s, again, it's not about good or bad people,
Well,
but they were okay following, the path. And the
this is something
indigos
I
for
got to
me,
tell you. This is
yeah,
something that we, depending on your age, can be mindful of. Let's say if you're a parent of a child born after 1975, or that is you, let's say you're in your upper 40s or whatever. Do you have more allergies? Do you have, more food sensitivities?
mhm,
Interesting.
absolutely. Yeah. And so again, they're almost grieving and mourning the state of earth and the way people treat each other and the
Mm,
negativity. And so, what helps indigos? What helps raise spiritual children, create peaceful homes? Because that's what all people really crave at this point
sure.
is peace,
Yep.
is love. And so, exercise, here we go. That regulates a high frequency when people detox, sweat, quiet their mind. Exercise, number one thing when they smile and say positive I am mantras, I am beautiful, I am worthy, all of that shifts the field around them and they have more peace, So very simple things, but we found one of the strongest tools we have here are tuning forks, this ancient sound healing. Indigos and all humans, it calms the mind, but every cell. It just really recalibrates things on such an extreme level that people get that pause from this kind of resistance energy of strong emotions and sadness and anger. So tuning forks, sound bowls, again, they're becoming very, very popular. What
Mm.
makes us a little bit different is we want parents and adults and children to be trained and confident to use these tools on themselves. We want these in homes. I have a headache, I have a stomach ache. Okay, what do I got? I got essential oils. We went for a walk, fresh air, nature, but now I have tuning forks. Now I have sound bowls. So again, we're looking to up things in people's homes. I start with gratitude. I start with understanding that if I sit quiet, I can take a breath and let some of that emotions that feels overwhelming just release. And that's the benefit of gratitude, of meditation, of prayer. How many times I sit here at the center and people just feel so alone? It's a huge thing right now,
Oh my
feeling
gosh,
different.
let's open that door. If you even look at the CDC, they call it an epidemic. Loneliness
Right.
is. And one would think, all right, maybe it's seniors. This was last year, and I don't know if this we're still riding on this, but the number one demographic of loneliness, men, 25 to 35. Now, you would think it would be completely the opposite. Yeah, they're going hanging out with their buddies, they're going to, play basketball, have a, beer, whatever. Who would ever think?
Right.
So spot on with what you're talking about there, Colleen.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I have my son is the youngest, and they're very sensitive and emotional. Now, that wasn't the norm for a male. So again, that's why those statistics are there because they're not processing their emotions like females may. Females express possibly, it's okay to cry because actually crying is the number one way to release emotions.
Hmm.
So we had to figure out how can my son be this 6'2" guy, macho athlete, but still process emotions? Because
Yep.
without processing, we kind of get filled with addictions, um, you know, suicidal thoughts, all of these types of things without releasing and processing and coming to the understanding that you're unique, your voice, your fingerprint, your smile, everything, but that's the way it needs to be. So we found Epsom salt. Epsom salt allows you to pull out emotion. So my son he's not going to love that I'm telling you this, but a big bag of Epsom salt, throw it in the bath, and felt a huge relief to sit quiet.
Oh my gosh. You know, it's so funny. You bring back memories. I'm thinking of my mom. And, you know, when you have an ache or pain or whatever, let me bring out the Epsom salt. I'm thinking to myself, why?
Mhm.
It's not going to do anything. What way? Well, I'm a kid yeah, at that time.
Yeah,
What do I know?
yeah.
But you know, you talked about your son, my daughter.
Mhm.
My oldest is 30 and
Okay.
she practices spirituality. She's very, you know, kind of deep into it, eating holistically healthy. But the other side of that is she's more sensitive to things, you know, allergies and things like that, food. You know, all what we're talking about here. So I find this fascinating, and I kind of surprised why I never heard of it before. And I'm always looking. So I appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
Yeah, and now they make Epsom salt with essential oils and all these things. Now, indigos often will outgrow those allergens and sensitivities if they really process their emotions. So if they really start to look at their emotional, they pull emotions from others, from the environment, don't fully release themselves. So again, crying, release letters, Epsom salt baths, laughter, smiling, but indigos who release, because they're really almost transmuting the emotions on earth, right? It's such a bigger picture, this spirituality meaning connected to all are one. So again, they have a big job here. So just by being here, living their lives, indigos are healing the planet. And
Hmm.
so they're often feeling that stress, that energy, but they're doing their job. Earth needed a lot of light, and that's what indigos bring. And so if we support them in releasing using sound healing, and that's why I train spiritual life coaches to really help individuals, families find balance
But what
physically,
about the rest of us?
emotionally.
You were born before 1975? You're a lost cause. We're really sorry about that. Yeah.
No, and and again, believe it or not, a lot of us, even born before 1975, have this greater compassion and want to heal, and we're interested and curious. So again, it's just a rough number there, but
Sure.
again, you just find the numbers have grown tremendously um, in comparative. So again, these generations, past generations, weren't bad. It's just the energy fit, and now we have a rising of mass consciousness, but it
Thank
was
you.
indigos who did this.
That's it. Consciousness. I truly believe there's a change in consciousness, even in the last, even since COVID, let's call it that, where
Right.
people realize what's going on now. It's not working. You know, I go to the doctor, I get pills. Yeah, I'm just not feeling better. There's something more out there, but
Right.
they can't put their finger on it. They're not really sure. And of course, they're sometimes maybe afraid to go down the woo road that, you know, I'm going to, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
is this really going to work for me? I think it will, but I'm not really sure. Do I want to invest in, you know, sound healing and all of that? I think
Right.
we're hungry now, Colleen. Finally, finally.
Yeah, and now is the time. Now is the time to open up. But what I find going back to feeling alone is we want people to have tools in their home. We want them empowered to use on their children and family. But then we want to create a community where there's like-minded people to come together for activities and equality to laugh and grow together. And again, that was because I tapped into individuals feeling alone, isolated, misunderstood. So again, we're trying to create these community centers. Florida, Hudson, Florida, Universal Gifts is open. We're open here in Middletown, New Jersey, Infinite Healing. So our plan is to have 10 of these centers for people to have modalities, get trained, learn how to help their own families and children, get trained in Reiki using that loving energy to channel that energy. So now is the time.
Mm.
And so again, we're creating these centers of wellness. of new information. It's actually ancient information,
Right.
but it triggers this remembrance. And so that's what happens when we have these conversations. The soul starts to say, oh, that feels right. I know that feels right. That's called remembrance.
Wow, I've never heard that term, but it totally makes sense where it's triggering something inside of you that is familiar and good. And what do we all want? We want familiarity. A lot of people don't like change, and mostly because we need to be safe. We need to get back. It's always back to the same thing. We all need to be safe. Mastering Self, that book you authored, I don't think the title could be any better. Especially what we're talking about here.
Well, and that's what I said. I said I needed it. It lists, they're very short chapters with new perspectives, how to look at earth, how to look at frequency, how to define spirituality. But then it gives us action steps to shift the vibration, to accept change, to evolve, to understand life, death, prayer, source God. So again, throughout the book, perspectives, information, but then there's action. And really that's what we need individuals to take is action. The worst feeling is to be dependent on anything or anyone. And so I challenge everyone to, start some affirmations, look in the mirror, the eyes are the seat of the soul. Tell yourself, I am beautiful, and really start being the example. Exercise, meditate, prayer, all of these things will infiltrate our home, our children's, our communities. And so again, it takes action, but simple. All spiritual things are simple. And so little tiny tasks will shift the energy into that vibration of love and peace.
So I want to add, we're out of time, but I want to add one thing to what you said. Not good to be dependent on anyone or anything. And here's what I'm going to add, except yourself.
Absolutely. Master yourself.
And I mean this with love, but nothing else matters except ourselves. It doesn't matter, great family, all that, spouse, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I hate to say it, and I'm going to say it. That could be gone tomorrow. There could be a change. You don't know, and we should live in the moment, so don't even think about the future. But you'll always have you. You'll always take care of you. Nobody's going to give you more of what you need than you, and all of that. Master Self. How do we connect with you, Colleen?
So infinitehealingandhealth.com, resources, information, activities, things are virtual. We do a lot of training virtually. So please connect. If there's something we can assist you with, we're here.
I've been in the metaphysical world for about 30 years. And only in the last 5, I've really stepped it up in terms of looking deeper, understanding things, energy and all of that. In the last few minutes, you brought things to my attention I've never heard of, and validation as well. And I want to say thank you. Super cool.
No, thank you. It's been a pleasure. It's been beautiful, and look forward to the future.
Likewise. And happy Thanksgiving to you and your family too.
Thank you. Same.
Right.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
We'll catch up soon. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.